Greetings everyone and welcome to my video. I'm Peter Updike and tonight I'm going to show you my Ocala National Forest buck. Just got him back from the taxidermist and I'm real happy with him. The taxidermist that mounted this deer is Masters Taxidermy in Ocoee in Orange County, Ocoee, Florida. And he did a real fine job. I'm real happy with the job that he did. He did my wild turkey and he did a couple of other deer in here. I've got deer from many different taxidermists. Robin Kirkland in Leesburg did 2 of the deer that are in here. And then Harold Toohey did 2 of the deer from Georgia in here. So I'll show you those deer one day. But I wanted to show you my Ocala National Forest buck and kind of give you the inside story on how I happened upon this deer. I killed him last year. Well, now that would be year before last. He's mainframe 8-point. He's 17.5 inches wide. He's almost 18 inches wide. He's got big, heavy bases, and he's just a great public land Ocala National Forest buck, and I'm real proud of him. I hunted this deer really by accident. I went up for the first time. I hunted opening day in the Ocala National Forest, and just kind of went up and did a little walk around in some areas that I'd hunted before, just looking for a place to set up. And I found a place to set up, but the terrain up there changes so quickly. Just one year to the next, the terrain can change, and it was hard for me to find a spot because it was just so thick and dense. Anyway, I finally found a spot, and when I had gotten up in my tree, this was like I said, this was opening weekend, so it's like the 10th of November, and I saw an open area through the timber on the other side. So that afternoon I went around and I found that spot and decided I would hunt it the following day. So I hunted it the following day, and it was a nice open area. When I say open, probably, you could see 60 yards to the right and 20 yards to the left and 40 yards straight in front. So that's pretty typical in the timber in the Ocala National Forest that you would find an area like that. So I sat there 5-6 hours on the following day and did not see a deer. So I decided to get down and head to the house. And every time I go, I set up my climbing stand, and every time I go home, I take it down. I do not leave my climbing stand in the woods for a week or lock it up. I take it up and down every time. So I thought I'd just do a little walk around, and I walked around to the back side of that open patch and walked a little bit behind some cover and discovered 3 large, very impressive scrapes. What's that mean? It means an area probably for Florida would be, a large scrape would be like the lid of a garbage can. And there were 3 major scrapes around a group of scrub oaks that kind of were out in the open, but I could not see from where I was standing my tree. Trees, good straight trees that you can put a climbing stand on, come at a premium. You might get 1 or 2 trees in an area that you can actually put a climbing stand on. So I could not see the scrapes very well from where I had been hunting. So I found another tree and vowed to come back the following week and hunt over that scrape. So that's what I did. I hunted over that scrape, and I came back the following weekend and hunted on Saturday morning and saw a small buck. I saw a buck that was probably, he was spikes. He was a spike with points, okay? And he didn't have a 10-inch main beam, and the points that he had really weren't legal points, so he wasn't a legal buck anyway. He was just a 1-year-old deer, so I enjoyed seeing him. And he walked over to those scrapes. And I thought, wow, man, there just can be no chance that he's the deer that made those scrapes. He acted kind of nervous, and then he picked up my wind, and he ran out of there like a bolt of lightning. Well, that was the only deer that I saw on that setup from, that would have been like the 17th of November. I hunted 4 hunts in that same spot during the Thanksgiving weekend. I hunted every weekend all the way up to New Year's. I killed this buck on December 29th, so that's New Year's weekend, because New Year's landed on Tuesday, and I killed this buck on Saturday or Sunday, I can't recall. But I steady hunted that spot with no intrusion from other hunters. No other hunters ever showed up. I never had a problem with anyone coming in on my spot. And I won't reveal all of the secrets of where I was hunting, but I'll tell you that there were a lot of people driving by. Off of the main road, you had to take a logging road, you know, one of those roads that goes along the edge of the chop. Take that on up and around it. It's not a numbered road, so it probably wasn't legal to drive on, but everybody drives on them, so, you know. And it was either that or carry my gear all the way up that road, and then you could be carrying your gear and have somebody drive by. But on December 29th, a fellow that I hunt with called me and said he wanted to go. Okay, I'm on a buck. I mean, the scrapes had gone inactive. They had been reined in. There were lots of tracks there. There are always tracks. But I hadn't seen any other deer. I said, I'm on a buck. He's made scrapes. I don't know if he's still around. Let's hunt it. I'll take you up there in the morning. So he was here bright and early. I guess it was Sunday morning. And I went out on my back porch, and the interesting thing is that it was 73 degrees on December 29th with high humidity. I thought, holy smokes, it's warm, it's humid. I really don't want to go. But he showed up in my front yard, so we loaded up the truck and we drove up there. We got there probably 10 minutes after broad daylight. And when I made my turn, there was a vehicle parked on the road where I turned. I said, all rats, you know, somebody's hunting my spot. And right away I saw somebody coming down the road. And they were coming down away from where I was hunting. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just talk to him and find out what his plans are. So I pulled around there and I asked the guy, I said, you hunting up there? He said, no, I just walked up there. I didn't see anything that interested me. So I always want to be courteous with other hunters. If he was hunting up there, I would let him have it and go someplace else. But, you know, I touched base with him. He had walked up there, but didn't see anything that really suited his fancy, so he was coming back down. So I went ahead and made my turn and drove up the road that led to my parking area, which was very close to where my tree was. The parking area where I was parked was probably 60, 70 yards in the timber. In fact, I could turn around in my stand and see the lights on top of my truck. I got the, you know, fog lights on top of the truck. I could see those, and you need a four-wheel drive to get up in there, so just not everybody was driving by, but every now and then a vehicle would drive by. So on December 29th, I got there, and like I said, my hunting buddy was with me, and I told him, I said, look, I almost said, why don't you hunt this tree and I'll go down and hunt another spot. But I said, no, this is my spot. And again, it's broad daylight. It's warm, you know, and I pointed him in the direction. I started to strap the tree stand to the tree. And of course, we always feel like we're making too much noise and we're making too much of an impact. But that's kind of the way I hunt. I just don't care. I'm beyond caring, and I just want to have a good hunt, have a good sit, and see what I see, and go home. That's pretty much my mental attitude when I'm hunting in the Ocala National Forest. So I get settled in, and I realize I haven't chambered around, because whenever I hunt with another person, I always make sure that I don't have a round in the chamber until I'm ready to actively hunt. So I better put one in the chamber. So I chambered around. This whole time I'm going through this thought process, this deer was coming through the timber. I did not see him, but I have to believe that he was on his way very, very close to where I was, simply because I wasn't in my stand 5 minutes. And I saw a figure. The best way I can describe it is I saw a figure ghostly moving through the cover. And I could not tell that it was a buck. I only could tell that it was a deer. I knew for certain it was a deer. I also knew that no one could come through the cover that was behind the scrapes. It's so thick and so dense, there are no roads behind that area. So I was quite confident that no other hunters, of course you always got to be careful, but no other hunters were back there. So I saw the figure moving through the trees, and it came out and behind the cover and came to the scrapes and stopped. 60 yards from where I'm seated, the deer was standing behind the cover, and I still could not tell that he was a buck. I dropped down behind the scope and decided just to take a look. And I looked trying to see and identify the target. Simple. And then he made a move, and then I was certain it was a deer. When I was certain it was a deer, there was heavy cover to the right and an opening to the left. He was headed towards that opening. I took the rifle and I aimed to the opening. I clicked off the safety. I looked up. He was moving. I could see. I dropped back down behind the scope, and when he came into my scope, I saw the main beam and the first tine. That's all I saw. I didn't see anything else. And something happened, you know, when something like this unfolds. There are some things about the event that I don't remember. I only remember seeing the main beam and the top tine. Main beam has to be 10 inches up over his ear. Yeah, he's got to be legal. He's a legal buck. So he steps into the opening, which is only about a yard, and I drop down behind the shoulder and I let it rip, and he falls. He falls, and then he immediately gets up and crashes through the timber, through the scrub, thick as a Brillo pad. And I hear him go, and then it goes dead silence. And then I remember hearing what sounded like a watermelon falling off the back of a truck, which now you identify as him collapsing onto the forest floor. But it didn't quite compute into my brain. And I sat there for a minute thinking, what just happened, you know? And I waited 15 or 20 minutes and gathered my thoughts, and I had a rush of adrenaline come over me soon after the shot. So I just waited before I started climbing down, and I unloaded my rifle, as always when I climb down. And I climbed down, and right away I went to go find my hunting partner. There's only so many spots in there you can set up, so I knew exactly where it was. And I had my blaze orange on, had a blaze orange hat. Straight to him I walked, and there he was in the tree. Waved to him. Walked up to him, and he said, that didn't take long. I said, well, I haven't found him yet. He ran off through the timber. So we decided to go ahead and take all of the gear and put it into the truck, and then begin the search for the deer. On the road, it winds around and goes to a big open chop. Let's go check. It rained the night before, so let's go check the road for tracks and make sure he didn't cross the road into the chop and across the chop. We walked all the way down from my truck to the next intersection where the road comes in, and there were no tracks. And then when we turned around and came back, there was a fresh set of tracks that walked right behind us. I thought, oh no. So I decided, instead of aimlessly walking, trying to find, I was going to go find blood, obviously. So after we made a note of where that track was, we went back to where I had shot the deer and where he had fallen, and I found one spot of blood on a leaf, and that was it. We looked and searched for more blood, and there was no other blood to be found. I began just working my way through the scrub, aimlessly, worried, obviously, and I told my hunting buddy, I said, look man, we're here for the day. I said, it's only 8 o'clock, 8:15. but we're gonna exhaust all efforts to find this deer. There's blood on the ground, and I know I hit him, and so he's got to be here. So we spent probably less than an hour searching the immediate area, and again, most of that in there you can see 5 or 6 yards, maybe 10 yards in some spots, and tried following the deer tracks that this deer might have made while fleeing, and it was very difficult to follow. I'm just not that good at it, okay? And I decided what I'd do. I began to think about the wallop sound. And if I would go back to my tree stand, go back to the tree I was standing, maybe I could get a compass reading from where I heard the wallop sound, and then follow the compass heading straight through the scrub and just do a grid that way and see if he's laying at whatever degree that I would come up with from the tree. And so I started my way back, and there he was laying there. This antler here was shoved down into the sand, and all I saw was this portion here. And when I reached up and grabbed him and pulled him up, I could not believe what a great deer he was. He's a big-bodied deer. He's a fully mature deer. We saved the jaw, had it aged at 6.5 years old. How does a deer like this live in the Ocala National Forest at 6.5 years old? Well, he did. In spite of all of the hunting, in spite of all of the pressure that we believe the Ocala National Forest gets on it, that deer like this survive, and they make it 1 year to the next. And it was a real lesson for me, and I like to pass that lesson on to you. And what can I say about the hunt? What can I say about hunting the Ocala National Forest? You know, I've lived here my whole life, and I've hunted the Ocala National Forest my whole life, and I've hunted everywhere in Florida that a man can possibly hunt. I've hunted in Georgia. I've been to Wyoming and Colorado and Alabama and Washington. Anywhere that I could go to go hunting, I've been. And the thing that I've learned is public land is just about the same no matter what state you're in. Everybody thinks it's always greener on the other side of the fence. And in some cases it is. But for the general rule and for the majority of the hunts, man, as far as I'm concerned, there's no place like home. I love my home state of Florida. I love deer hunting in Florida. I love all the hunting I can do in Florida. I love hunting on public land, but I always felt, because I grew up here and I've hunted here my entire life, a little slighted because I never killed a trophy buck in the Ocala National Forest. And I felt like, you know, if a man goes to Georgia or to Illinois or to Texas to kill his trophy buck, and he denies the hunting that he has here in his backyard, well, he's cheated himself. Because I can tell you, killing a local buck, a noteworthy buck, some people say, that buck's not very big. Well, they don't hunt in the same woods I do. You know, you kill this deer anywhere in Florida, all right, you've killed yourself a pretty good buck. And I'm real proud of him. And what they kill in other states really doesn't matter to me. I mean, I can go to a buddy's house and he's got bucks from Kansas, he's got bucks from Illinois, and he's got bucks from Texas. But he don't have an Ocala National Forest buck. so that's my deal, man. That makes me happy to have this deer on my wall. And he was a good eating deer. We ate every portion that could be eaten, and we get him mounted. I get my deer mounted. I love to get deer mounted to remember the time and to admire them and appreciate what we have here in Florida. And people come to my house, and they come to my house and they see this deer, and they see a couple of the others that I have in here, and they go, "Wow, that's a Florida deer. I didn't know Florida had deer that good," and that always makes me feel good. So if you don't hunt in Florida and you live here, you should learn to hunt if you hunt private land, that's great, you know, but having a public land buck, I've got private land bucks in here, but this one surpasses those deer. Alright, so that's my buck. I hope you enjoy these videos. I sure do like making them. I love watching them. I love recalling every hunt, and I'm looking forward to the seasons coming up. We're going to be applying for our quota permits on June 1st, so get your computer out, get your management area numbers ready, and apply. And those are numbers that somebody's looking at, and we need to apply and let them know that there are people out here that appreciate wild Florida and wild Florida lands. Alright? Okay, I love you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.